Thank you very much for joining us. Let's settle for the details now. And security expert Colonel Festus Abuaji, retired, has raised questions about the role of the military in the ongoing voter registration exercise. He says, according to best practice worldwide, military personnel have very limited roles in the election-related activities. His observation comes after military personnel in Ghana have been accused of intimidating persons they suspect to be non-Ghanaians. Colonel Abuaji says the nature of the accusation leaves room for worry.
From my experiences in peacekeeping, particularly in Nekomok, Liberia, all I know is that the military has no role in election monitoring. They play a supporting role, especially in protecting the delivery or conveyance of the election staff and election material. They provide a security umbrella within which the police and the electorate and the electoral commission infrastructure can conduct the operation. I thought that should have happened here. To the extent that I have seen, for instance, in the video that you just projected, having military men with arms slung right at the ballot stations, I don't think it's in accordance with international practice. It should not have happened. With regards to the border issue, based on what the president said in one of his addresses, the border security primarily, or in this case, immigration, because we are not under attack from a foreign neighbor or whatever it is. It is to ensure that only persons who are Ghanaians do participate in the electoral process. So the frontline institution will be, call it immigration or whatever other name that we have for them. The military, once again, will be in support. But the cases that we have heard in the media where the military is alleged to have gone or be going from house to house asking for identification, I've said a while back that there's no military training that I'm aware of that enables military personnel, capacitates them to determine nationality or citizenship. So it's a bit worrying whether in the Volta region or whether in Banda or wherever it happens, to have military personnel on allegation, asking for identification and asking for establishment of citizenship.
Now, away from the project, JoyNews is set to broadcast its latest investigative report detailing the stealing of cocoa by produce clerks of licensed cocoa buyers. Today, after 2 years of legal tussle, Missing Kilos explores how officials of state and privately licensed buying companies adjust their weighing scales to steal as much as 100 kilos from a single farmer. In the first part of a 3-piece documentary, JoyNews' investigative journalist Kwete Nate unveils a national plunder of the country's farmers.
After weighing my cocoa, I have brought the cocoa to the first shed at Amokwa. A man in his early 40s offers to buy the cocoa. He volunteers to carry the cocoa. He takes me to a mud-thatched house. He doesn't own his own shed. He weighs the cocoa at home. A bag of 70-kilogram cocoa now weighs 64 kilogram on his scale. He's demanding an extra 5 kilogram despite stealing 6 kilograms through the adjustment of the scale. In this community, it will be impossible to find a shed that will weigh cocoa at 64 kilograms. Is there a depot at Anyinase? Or do they also weigh the bag at 70 kilograms? It won't be weighed at 64 kilograms, but you need to factor other costs such as transportation. I'm at the border town of Elubu. I want to test how pervasive this canker is in this region. This 6.4-foot tall purchasing clerk works with private license buying company Fudo. His shed looks like an old church block. It hasn't been whitewashed for a long while. He's taking stock of several bags of cocoa here, but he stops to attend to us. He drops the bag of cocoa on an old rusty scale. The 70-kilo cocoa now weighs 56 kilos. 14 kilograms is stolen on every bag brought to this shed. Is that your brother?
That's an excerpt of the documentary that will be airing tonight at 8:30 p.m. You don't want to miss it. But let's have some conversation on the back of this. We're joined via Zoom by the country director of Send Ghana, George Osei-Bimpe. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on News Desk. We're also joined by Fifi Boafo, who is in the office of the CEO of the Chief Executive of Cocoa Board. Mr. Boafo, thank you very much for your time here on News Desk as well. But let me start with you, Mr. Bimpe. Your organization also carried out a similar exercise along the Aguna East communities. Surprised at this development?
No, really, we are not surprised because, I mean, we released our report last year. And so this is a confirmation of a widespread practice that, you know, crooks like the guy that you saw in the video have been using to cheat the farmers out of the toils that and the, you know, the drudgery that they have to go through every day. I must say that when we issued the report, we had the Cocoa Board in attendance, and apparently the Cocoa Board had put in place measures. You know, they were working together with the Standard Board, as a standard authority at that area, to ensure that they introduced in October this year. They introduced you know, electronic weighing scales that we are hoping that if they roll them out, will resolve these issues. But you see, in as much as there is some sense of optimism about that, this will not be the first time that measures are going to be introduced to curb that practice. So we are hoping that this time around, we will find a lasting solution to that. But in as much as the act is condemnable, I think that even the fact that some people had to fight multimedia for this video documentary to be held on for about 2 years means that there is a kind of cartel behind all these activities. And the problem, I think it is not an isolated one, it's widespread. And so some heads must rule in terms of at least those that were caught on the camera. And I think that the security agencies should take this up, have them arrested, put them before court, at least to serve as a deterrent to anybody who might try anything when we have the electronic weighing scales introduced later this year.
And we'll talk a bit more about that because Fifi is on the line. I'm sure he can give us some more detail on how this would work. Fifi, I'll come to you shortly. But Mr. Bimpe, you are saying that this is not the first time measures have been introduced. What other measures were introduced, and in your estimation, did they work?
Yeah, I recall that in our research that we conducted, there was some revelation. In some of the communities, the farmers had agreed to leave the weighing scales in the house of their executives. It turned out that the executives were later compromised. And so they were in collusion with the buying companies, or if you like, the secretary or the catcher, as we call it in the villages. And so they connived and have the scales adjusted, so that in the minds of the farmers, they thought that they had a gatekeeper who was fighting for their interests. But it turned out that they were actually betrayed through the activities of the people, the very people who are supposed to work with them. So this, and I'm hoping that the new electronic weighing scales that I am told cannot be tampered with, we will have to manage it in a very transparent way, such that nobody, whether whether that person purports to represent the interests of the farmers, will connive with the secretaries or the buying companies to dupe the farmers.
Okay,
that is one typical example that we came up.
Let me go to Fifi Boafo on the other line. Thank you very much, Fifi. I'm sure that is not new to you, but seeing that we have evidence now on tape, how is Cocoa Board reacting to this?
Well, thanks for the opportunity. Let me say that it is not new to us, like you indicated, and this is a bit belated. I say belated in the sense that we have conducted some investigations, and that's more comprehensive than what JoyNews is doing now. Comprehensive in the sense that 2018, the chief executive went around and it was revealed, actually, because we went around with weighing stones, paid some surprise visit to some of these license buying companies, and then we realized that these license buying companies were cheating the cocoa farmers. For this reason, Cocoa Board commissioned the Standards Authority to do some sort of a nationwide audit to assess what exactly these license buying companies are doing. After the audit, we have a comprehensive report. We realized that these license buying companies were cheating the cocoa farmers from 2 kilos as high as 11 kilos in some cases. We've had some meetings with these license buying companies, and we've provided them with a copy of the report for them to know the extent of the cheating that is going on across the country. There have been some punitive measures, which the law that governs scales and weighing in our country, and the punitive measures has applied. Of course, there was some reluctance on the part of some of these license buying companies, but indeed, we ensure that the laws applied. However, we're of the view that it would not be enough for us to continue applying sanctions as and when we conduct these searches, and then it comes out that these people have been cheating the farmers. So what we've done going forward is just like the gentleman from St. Ghana indicated, is to introduce electronic scales. The electronic scales, they do not have the opportunity to tamper with it, just like they do with these manual scales. So going forward, these electronic scales, our expectation is that beginning this next cocoa season, we'll introduce them, and the electronic scales will be able to make this whole age-long practice of cheating cocoa farmers using the scales a thing of the past. Let me say that the board has given approval for this very action. Procurement process is ongoing, and it is our belief and expectation that we'll be able to find solution to this problem, which has confronted our industry for long. Let me quickly address the concern he raised with regards to whether or not this will be able to be the panacea to the problem we face.
Yes, and that's very crucial.
Of course, we admit that every introduction of a policy or a measure comes with its own set of challenges. But this is clearly something different from the example he cited. The example he cited, whereby it was the same old skills, except that different people were trusted to make sure that it does not find its way into the hands of these rooks who will go and then manipulate it to the disadvantage of the cocoa farmers. These skills are not the ones which you have the opportunity to say that, okay, at this point in time, I am adjusting it by this percentage or by this margin. So it is our belief that this will come to be a big relief for the cocoa farmers. The chief executive has consistently, I think the last year, been talking about the introduction of these new skills, which we believe will solve the problem our farmers face. And anywhere we've been to where we had farmers rally and the chief executive talk about this introduction, the excitement on the faces of the cocoa farmers is a clear demonstration that, yes, they have a strong belief that this will be able to come and relieve them of such a burden they face. So trust me, this system will come as an initiative that is coming to solve the problem.
I think the concern that Mr. Bimpe raised is that who is going to handle these skills that you're talking about, such that whoever will be handling it, we can be sure of where the person, whose allegiance the person is, having, and such that the interest of the cocoa farmer will be secured in this case.
Okay, so the concern Mr. Bimpe was talking about, I'm just making the point that probably he does not understand fully how these electronic skills work compared to the manual skills. With the manual skills, yes, depending on who has control over it or who is monitoring it, then you'll be able to adjust it. But with the electronic skills, it does not matter who has it.
Okay.
You are unable to tamper with it. So the point is, yes, Cocoa Board is facilitating the procurement of these skills, and then the licensed buying companies will be using it because they are the people who will work with them.
Okay.
But the good news is that they do not have the power to manipulate it, whether it's in their possession or it's in the possession of another person.
And we hope that this will work. But you must appreciate that this is a documentary that was done in 2018. It's been held on because of legal issues. And so when you say that you have carried out a much more comprehensive audit, I think that you should hold on because it's a 3-piece documentary. But as far as the audits that you conducted is concerned, was it made public? And you talk about sanctioning of some people. How many people have been sanctioned? And what kind of sanctions are we talking about?
Okay, I've not taken anything away from Joy News from this documentary. Of course, it's a good piece that has been done. But of course, you all appreciate the fact that resources available to Joy News and Cocoa Board as a regulator, the resources are not the same. And of course, we have different mandates in this regard. So a survey or a research work done by a media house trying to uncover this, just oppose it with what we do as a regulator, ours will be more expensive. And I appreciate the facts and comments Joy News for this very initiative. But the point I was just trying to make is that, sure, we have done extensive nationwide work. Of course, the work that was done by Joy News has been held for 2 years. So probably coming out at this time, what has been done from the 2 years up to this stage has overtaken what the work you have done. But still, indeed, a commendable act which you've done.
Very well. On the specific issue of the audits, I just want to know if this was made public and how many people were sanctioned, because you talked about that.
The chief executive has spoken to it publicly on a number of occasions as to the work that was done by Standards Authority. And also to add that there are a number of licensed buying companies which were found guilty of this act, and Standards Authority applied the sanctions.
What sanctions?
There are fees you are supposed to pay if you are found to be cheating cocoa farmers, and that's what Standards Authority ensured that was done.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Fifi Boafo. He is in the office of the Chief Executive for Cocoa Board. We are also joined by George Bimpe, who is the country director for Send Ghana, on this story that we are bringing to you. It's our latest investigative piece on cocoa buying in the country, a nationwide plunder of cocoa farmers. The full piece, the first part, airs tonight at 8:30 p.m. Now, away from that, the Ghana Education Service says its assessment of 3 years of implementation of the free senior high school program puts the country's educational system on a speedy, progressive ladder for its development. Interacting with Mama Vioso Abuaje on the AM show, Professor Kwesi Opoku Amankwa emphasized the need for policy to be fully embraced to enable teething challenges encountered to be resolved for quality standards to be achieved.
As far as WASI is concerned, they use the criterion reference 10. So for the criterion, when A is set, they decide that A is 70, everything about A is 70. If they decide that A is 80, everything about A, everything about 80 is 8.
that they use the non-reference, but this one, they use the criterion reference. And that one, you can always compare across cohorts.
Okay.
1992 people, 2002 people, whatever. And then you can also always compare across countries. And that's how come for every year when that result is released, we are able to determine which student was first in Ghana, which student was first across the countries, and then we do special excellence awards for them.
Okay, but we were also talking about the concentration on this batch. We know that this is the first full circle. This is the first really free senior high school students who are writing the exam. But the attention that we're giving them is unnecessary.
The attention.
The focus.
Oh, okay.
And the reference, reference also as Kufuor, you know, the president's name is even on them as students.
Well, I believe what the president said was not that he was referring to them as Kufuor, but he said that is what people are saying. So, and then he wholeheartedly accepts that. Why wouldn't he, for the kind of investment that is made in them, obviously he will accept that. So he didn't say that he is calling them, what do you call it, Kufuor. But I think the concentration on them, in one way or the other, we may have to accept it, because this is the first time that we are doing this kind of thing in our country. And once it is coming in that direction, you expect it. Again, it's also something that is a flagship program of a government. So obviously, there's so much attention and concentration on that. But I believe even the children themselves, I'm not sure they have bought into this kind of concentration. A large majority of them, when they go around, they are seriously learning to make sure that they get a future.
Now, the Deputy Ranking on Parliament's Education Committee, Dr. Clement Apak, and Kofi Asare, who is the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, expressed worry about the quality of students being produced and encouraged government to ensure the double-track system is abolished within time for students to be comfortable with the teaching and learning process.
You may be aware that even in the current manner in which the program has been implemented, although it is said to be free, it is the case that government or the state does not provide core textbooks to the students. In fact, rather it is elective textbooks to the students. Government only provides core textbooks. And even in the provision of those core textbooks, what happens is that when you are in year one and you are going to year two, you have to leave the core textbooks of year one behind. But at the end of the day, when you are to prepare and to be examined, it is the expectations that your revision would cover from year one to year three. That is it.
Let me bring you some other stories here on News Desk. And students of the School of Hygiene are protesting the non-payment of allowances to them as promised by government. The students who hitherto benefited from the payment of allowances to all students in health institutions under the Ministry of Health say they have not been paid a penny since the Kufuor administration restored the payment of allowances to nurses. Friad Owusu-Ampoma is the SRC president of the Accra School of Hygiene and joins us via Zoom. Thank you very much for your time here on News Desk. Now, you talk about neglect in the payment of allowances. Did you get an explanation as to why you're not being paid like your friends in the nursing institutions?
All right, thank you, sir. From the onset, we were engaged with the Ministry of Health, and we were asked to direct our grievances through the Ministry of Sanitation, because the schools of hygiene have been now transferred to the Ministry of Sanitation to take care of every affair of the school. So we contacted the Ministry of Sanitation on how to pay the allowance, and as we did that, the minister delegated people to meet us. So we have contacted them a lot, several times, and even in 2017 we petitioned. And just last week we were about to write our exit exam and complete school, and we boycotted the exams because we have heard that the ministry wants to pay the allowance, but waiting for the final year students to complete, of which is not the best, because we are all part of the allowance. So why should we complete school before you institute the you initiate it for the payment? So the minister delegated some people to come and meet us and discuss about how they are going to restore the allowance for us. So the chief director and the HR at the Ministry of Sanitation came to the school to meet us, but they were all begging us that we should write the exams. They will still work on it. And we asked, why have we been neglected for a long time? And they are like, it is due to administrative bottlenecks. And that is where they are trying to always convince us that it's due to some challenges. And we are like, because we are part of it, the nursing schools are receiving. So why are they receiving and the School of Hygiene are not receiving? So we asked them that why are we not receiving the allowance?
Okay.
And they couldn't give any solid explanation. So we told them that yes, so we are still boycotting the exam. So as it stands now, all the 3 schools of hygiene, Ho, Temale, and Accra, we are all not writing the exam, and we are all in our rooms. Until we get the alert of the allowance on our phone, we are not going to sit for the exam.
All right. Freeman Poma, thank you very much. That's the SRC president for the Accra School of Hygiene. We've been in touch with the Ministry of Sanitation. We understand that the chief director is engaging some of the student leaders, and at the appropriate time, they will respond to the concerns raised by the students. You're watching News Desk with me, Anna Smith. We're taking a break. When we return, the Aviation Ministry to forward proposals to Cabinet on the next line of action for international travels amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Daryl Kwal has details in business. Stay with us.
Hi, good morning. Time to bring you some business news. My name is Daryl Kwal. Opening of Ghana's airspace for international travels will largely depend on how other countries manage their COVID-19 cases. That's according to Aviation Minister Joseph Kofi Adda. Speaking to Joy Business, Mr. Adda said his outfit would soon forward a proposal to Cabinet to advise on what should be the next line of action.
Well, I think it's important for us to reopen the airports, but the President is very concerned and very responsible and worried about the pandemic and the adverse effect it will have on the nation. It's not about Ghana, it's about what happens in other countries that affect us. Certainly, if you're going to open up the airports, we're going to have more of the cases coming to the country that we cannot manage. It takes a toll on the resources of the nation. What we've done is that we've reviewed what is going on globally. We've done our own internal assessments. We are about finishing up some proposals that we want to share with government to get the views of our colleagues, the Cabinet, to see how they also consider that matter. I'm sure out of that will come some concrete recommendations for the President to give his blessing to that. But for now, we haven't completed that process. I hope we can finish that by next week as a first step to get the President to look at what it is that we should consider. When should we consider opening the airports? What would be involved in that? Is it a matter of certification? Is it a matter of bilateral relations between certain countries and Ghana, where they should go through some certified processes of testing and so on and so forth? How do we manage the system here? All those things are very important for us to complete before we open the airports.
Now, government is expected to complete a shareholding process that will open Neoplan Ghana Limited up for recapitalization. The cash-strapped company threatened to shut down operations in January following the inability of the minority shareholder, the Fado Group, to continue funding its operations. Director General of the State Interest and Governance Authority, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, reveals government is ready to offset about 20% of its 55% shares to make Fado Group majority shareholders of the transport company. He has been explaining why.
Right now, myself and the Minister for Trade and Industry are talking to the Fadul company, a group who have been handling a new plan for a while. They are 45% shareholding, we are 55%. And they're looking at we diluting some to them, which we are open to that. Because they've supported new plan all this while, and even a 55% ownership for over 10-something years, we have never bothered. And so government must step in. And so we are talking to see how we dilute the 20%. So what we've done is to commission a consultant to go in and do an assessment. And they've done evaluation for us. And so that would be based on the 20% we give them. There are other companies who are also coming on stream who also want government to dilute more. So really, your plan is going to look up rather than closure. Remember at some point, there was a threat of even closing the workers. Now I can tell you they are not. The FADU group have been able to sustain the workers up to today. And once the discussion and the evaluation is agreed between all of us, hopefully I think by August, early or middle part of August, we should have a shareholding formula that makes it possible for recapitalization.
And the full interview will air at 5 p.m. on Business Live. Up next, sports, to stay tuned.